Thank you, Nidhi, for that. So, welcome to all of you. It's of course always my honor to connect and to bring my mentor and back to each one of you, so that you can all experience his divine presence like I did so many years ago, and it really changed the course of my life and the work that I do. So that's really who Peter Redding is to me, and I will introduce him formally. But like I shared earlier, there's some of you who are exploring the program that we're going to bring in September. And some of you have been part of the program before and are just coming back for a reconnection, which is always beautiful. And I know at least I can see one who's already registered for the program. We've been having a conversation for maybe over a year and a half, and I'm so glad that you finally chosen to join us. But thank you all for being here. The idea of today's conversation is we've called it a fireside chat, and you will experience the warmth of the fire through Peter's presence. We thought that what would be a nice topic uh, for for us to be able to share with you, really Peter to share with you and speak through his years of experience of both practicing as a coach, being a masterful coach trainer himself. But more importantly, I think the reason why it's so special is that he embodies every word that he speaks, and that's really what I wanted each one of you to experience. So we thought of the coaching mindset, and what is a coaching mindset? What does it mean really? So we'll get Peter to share a little bit about that. And if you have any questions, you can put it into the chat box. There are a few questions that came in that I will weave into what Peter is sharing after he finishes sharing, and we'll see how that goes. Okay, so that's really where we are today. Our program, as some of you know with my emails that you would have received, is from the 12th of September. Sorry, from the 15th of September. That's my eagerness to start quickly. But it's from the 15th to the 19th of September is when we're doing our next program. This is a program that Peter has been running for now 26 years. And for the last 13 years in India, I have the distinct honor, privilege to share space with him and co-facilitate this program that I also call my life's work now for the last 6 years. So welcome to each one of you. Good to see you, Manisha. Manisha is another person who's registered for the program, but good to see you here as well. So I'm going to hand over to Peter. Peter, as many of you may already know, is a legend in coaching. I've been very conscious not to call him the father of coaching because he'll always deny that. Even that's the way that I hold him. But so he's definitely a legend in the space of coaching. He's been there around in the coaching space ever since it was born, and continues to contribute to it positively, both through the work that he does through his own school, Coach for Life Institute, as well as through his contributions that he makes towards the International Coaching Federation, as well as towards ACTO, which is the Association of Coach Training Organizations. And he plays such an active role in both of those organizations. He's a master certified coach, of course, and also he's a master coach trainer. And it's like, for me, it's working alongside my father in coaching and sharing this work and his work and taking it forward. And I feel so honored to have had the opportunity and privilege to do that. So welcome, Peter. Thank you for making the time always. And the stage is all yours so that you can light up and share on this fireside chat on the coaching mindset. Over to you.
Thank you. I'm feeling the warmth of the fire already. Well, good evening to all of you. Thank you so much for coming this evening. And I am coming to you from Orlando, Florida, USA, where I reside. And I love talking about coaching. And so thank you very much for the platform, Amrita and Nidhi and all the Back to Source team that has been such a spectacular host for me and doing the work in the last several years in India. So with that, mindset, that's for me where it all starts. I came out of a very different mindset when I came into coaching 25, 26 years ago now, as a consultant, as a trainer, as a retired executive at that stage. And those have different mindsets. And the mindset that we're talking about is, what's the attitude, what's going through literally my mind before I engage in a coaching and conversation. So if I'm an executive and I am responsible for getting things done and delivering deliverables and executing on plans and getting people developed and all the other things that I have going on in my head, then my mindset when I was an executive was time is money. Let's get it done. Let's get it done efficiently, as fast as possible, and with the least amount of cost with the greatest impact. I mean, that was my mindset. It was my mindset when I went into a meeting, team meeting. It went into my, it was in my mind when I was having a one-on-one conversation with the direct report. So if I go into coaching now with that kind of a mindset, then I'm frankly not coaching. I can't coach from that mindset because I have an agenda in that mindset. I've heard the same thing with parents. Parents have a mindset of, I am here to protect my child. I am here to support them and prepare them for the world that they are coming into. I will direct traffic in their life in terms of where it's appropriate, what's appropriate to learn, study, become knowledgeable around. And again, there is a very strong agenda attached to that mindset. Now, coming into coaching where the client, it's the client's agenda, it's the client's agenda. And oh, by the way, it's the client's agenda, not mine. My mindset must shift to a place of whatever the client wants to talk about, dig into, explore, whatever the client is ready to whatever depth the client is ready to explore that particular topic. It's all up to the client, not to me. If we accomplish what I would love, again, if I fall back into the executive mindset or the parental mindset or the authority mindset, I would love to have this client get to this knowingness, come to finality, come out with these action steps, and commit to do those between now and our next conversation, which might be a week from now or 2 weeks from now. I have to let go of that old mindset to convert to, if they get to a decision, if they get to a knowingness, if they get to a different place of confidence in our session today, in the next 58 minutes or 28 minutes, wonderful. I'll be happy and excited for my client. But I must let go of, they have to get it today. I have to let go of that. So this is where it all begins. And this took me a year to let go of it when I was going through this. But of course, then I didn't have me as a trainer and Amrita as a trainer. So hopefully it happens much faster for you, and it can. But it was hard for me to let go of being the authority. It was hard for me to let go of, I know better than this client because I'm older, because I am more experienced, because I've been through this space that they are currently journeying. And so it finally came through, thank God, where I can be at 100% peace, 100% present for that client's journey, regardless of how fast they're doing it, regardless of what insights or aha moments they come to during the time that we're together, and or as a result of that time together, that they continue to reflect on that particular area of their life between sessions. And no, here's the payoff here, and it's a beautiful payoff. People that are attracted to coaching have a deep desire for that person to thrive, for that person to have it easier, have it be more successful, have it be more fulfilling. It being their life, it being their career, it being their marriage, their relationships with their kids, et cetera, et cetera. The payoff for coaching is to hold this mindset of it's yours to figure out. I'm here to support you and asking you questions, being curious, making some clean observations, not authoritative or directive observations, so that you as a human being can develop faster. I'm going to say that again. For that person, that client, to develop themselves faster than me telling him what to do. So if I take a look at my own life, if I look at the lives of my students, average age of my students are, I'm going to say probably 42 years old. I'll just pick a number. I haven't done any statistical analysis on this, but probably in their early 40s. There's some as young as 25. There's some as old as 70, 75. But by the time that person is 42 years old, if your life reflects anything like mine, is I was told what to do pretty much from the time I was born to the time I was 42 by my parents, by my teachers, by my professors, by my mentors at work, at my people that I reported to in my organizational work. There was very little self-development or space for self-development, because time is money. We want you to get it now and go do it. Coaching is a break from that, a significant break from being told or advised what to do, how to do it, when to do it, and how much to do it. To, this is your time. You can talk about anything you want. You can make as much progress as you're ready to make. You can agree to do any commitments that come from you, self-commitments, we call them in coaching, as opposed to homework that I'm going to assign you, or tasks that I think you should do, need to do for your next stage of development. And as a result of that, the client begins to take ownership. They reflect, and sometimes they're afraid to do this because their brain's not used to this, literally, at 42 years old. They're still waiting for someone to give them advice because it's safer. If it goes wrong, well, she told me. It is the most effective personal and professional development tool that exists in our planet today, coaching. And so that's the mindset. For those of you that are currently in the roles of executive or parent or authority or trainer, yes, you can have different mindsets depending upon what role that you're going into next. And so we train people for the hour that they take away from their executive responsibilities or their training responsibilities, their parental responsibilities, to take time to consciously go, okay, so now I'm going to be going into this relationship with my coaching client, and I need to shift gears up here. I'm no longer the parent, the executive, the advisor. And so we talk about that in training in terms of how do I prepare myself for that shift of mindset. And then once the coaching session is done, then I need to shift it back to the other role that I'm playing for the other 10 hours a day that I'm in. Okay. So this is step one, the willingness to step into a mindset that is very different than my experience, any of the other roles that I've played or continue to play for that matter. Yeah. So I'll put it back to you, Amrita, for any insights that you have in this.
Peter, more than insights, I really want to bring it to a question that we received, and that is this mindset of coaching. Is there a possibility, or is there any advantage, if there is a possibility, to extend it beyond the coaching relationship? So
Yeah, I love that question. Was there more to it?
no, I was just going to add to it is that, the way that I see it is that it's coaching is a modality that, we learn to be as professional coaches, and we run it as, we bring that presence when we're coaching. But I also seen from my own experience that it's also a way of life. So I just, if you can speak more to it or share some insights about it, I think that would be useful.
Yeah, it's actually a very insightful question, because when I practice being in this coaching mindset, specifically for my professional coaching, and I continue to coach professionally with world-changing visionaries. Those are my clients right now. The more I practice this mindset, then the more natural it becomes when I'm having just regular conversations with my siblings or neighbors, or people that are in the different task force groups that I work in, and ICF, International Coaching Federation. And yes, it can flavor being a better dad. And I've had students say that basically word for word. I am now a better parent because of this. I think first before I give advice, when somebody even asks me for advice, excuse me, I know several people that come to our training are already mentoring as a mentor in their organizations. And I love mentoring. This coaching does not replace good mentoring. But even as a mentor, they will take more of a coach approach with a coaching mindset. And when the mentee asks them, okay, so what would you advise in terms of my career path? The mentor now is going to be more likely to ask them questions for having them decide, them explore, them get to a deeper root of what they're interested in. What are you passionate about? What would you like to see more of? What are you ready to develop? What kind of work really excites you? All right. So you've been with the organization for 8 years. If you were to create your ideal job, what would it be? What would it include? What area? What function? What vertical? What country? What culture? So there's a lot of the coaching mindset that does go into being a better parent, being a better mentor, being a better trainer, listening more and telling less. Yeah, absolutely, it's true.
So Peter, I'm just going to ask. It's one question which has come in the chat box, and also a question that came from the people who registered. Is this a mindset that can be learned? And can you like take on this mindset, or is it something that you are born into? Is one part of the question. And I'll ask the second question also, since I'm sure it's related, even though that's not the best way to ask coaching questions, I know. But the question in the chat box, and it's from Janki, and she said, how does one let go of a previous mindset and get into this mindset? So if you can address both of those, please.
Yeah, is it innate? Was I born with it, or can I learn it? I think there's something that is innate in people that are attracted to coaching. And again, like I said, is for us, for me as a coach, for me as a human being, to just love to see people thrive. I mean, I was that as an executive, I was that as a mentor earlier in my career. Even at the expense of losing that prize employee that was the #1 producer in my particular division. Actively supported him or her to be considered for major promotion that would take them out of my vertical, take them out of my function. So I think that's part of the DNA of those of us that are attracted to coaching. As it relates to mindset, I don't believe that. It's an interesting question, actually. Innate. I think it is innate to the degree that I think that those of us that are attracted to coaching are curious, that supports the client. I think that part of it is innate. The practicing, or can I learn this? The answer is categorically yes. I'm a living example of that. And the thousands of people that I've trained are living examples that yes, you can learn this. And like most things, there's some, especially at our age, okay, and I'm saying our age at whatever age you are in entering coaching, whether you're in the 30s, 40s, or 50s, or 60s, doesn't matter, is that we have to unlearn one key element in order to practice and be willing to practice this mindset that I just described. The one thing that has to be unlearned is the concept of the best way for me to support this human development of my client, personal development and or professional development, is to tell them what to do. Now, that was my belief for frankly, all the time that I was an executive, because I was not a coach and didn't have a coaching mindset when I was an executive. So if I can unlearn that and replace that basic belief that telling people what to do is the best way to develop them, and replace it with ask them, have them come up with what is the best way for them to develop. Have them take ownership of their decisions in terms of what they want to do next. That's the unlearning and unlearning and new learning. Because we've proven over the last 25 years in the profession of coaching that coaching, like I said before, is the most significant, powerful way to develop people, period. It's been proven time and time again, because it's one-on-one, it's customized, they figure out for themselves, they take ownership, they have a sense of, if I came up with the answer on what I need to do or want to do, the likelihood of them executing on that goes up into the high 90 percentile. If I tell them what to do, or somebody else tells them what to do, the chances of them executing on that is less than 50%. So it's proven. What was the second part of the question?
The one was that can it be learned, and the other is how do I let go of a previous mindset so that I can take on this coaching mindset.
Yeah, and the letting go part again is the unlearning part. I can be a better parent, I can be a better executive, I can be a better trainer by having the individual think for themselves, commit to themselves, execute for their purposes, not for me or any kind of punitive things that I'm going to bring to them as a leader in a corporation or as a parent. Yeah. So again, and then practice.
I guess also that once you start seeing the benefit of bringing this mindset, then the willingness to let go of an older mindset becomes that much more easier. So as you see it working in my own worldview, on your worldview, then you see the benefit of it playing out. And so then it becomes easier to let go of that mindset, and adds, of course, unlearning starts from there, but then you can also see the benefit and then start letting go. Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of like if the neural network up there in the brain has been doing it one way for 40 years, it's pretty strong. It's like a thoroughfare. It's like a main expressway. So, and as we unlearn that piece of it and have more experiences, as you're saying, Amrita, we're starting to create a new groove up there, a new neural network path that says, oh yeah, let me try this differently for this, for this child, for this employee. Yeah.
I've heard you say several times, and you even spoke a little bit about it now when you started this topic, is that the client will get what they're here to receive when they're ready to receive it. And I was just making some notes, is that they will progress when they are ready to make that leap forward, or move to whatever extent they want to move forward. So can you speak a little bit about that in terms of what is the coach's role in supporting forward movement, and how the client will move forward only when they're ready to move forward? If you can speak a little bit to that.
Well, yeah, it was a great framework in terms of the question itself. I have an obligation as a coach to support my client to move forward in the direction that they choose. Okay, it's plain and simple. If they want to talk about having a better relationship at home, then that's what is talked about. That's what my questions are going to be around. And they are going to be able to think about it for themselves. I will ask them about their readiness. Are you ready to move forward on this? Are you ready to take actions? You mentioned a couple things that you are thinking about doing. Are you willing and able to do those things, start those things in the next 2 weeks? So there's also a sense of immediacy. It's one of my clients, she wanted to move forward. She wanted to move forward in getting an advanced degree. And she said to me, yeah, I want to get my master's degree when my children are grown up. And I didn't know how old her children were. So I said, how old are your children? They're 3 and 7. And so she's talking about something that's, 10 years, 12 years, 14 years away, which isn't particularly very helpful in a coaching conversation where they're taking responsibility. So I asked a very simple question. I said, okay, so what could you do in the next 2 weeks towards the end of getting your advanced degree? And it was startling for her because it was way, 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 way back in her mind. That she said, basically in her mind, she's thinking, okay, so I've got 14 years to figure this out. But since you ask what I want to move forward on, that's one of the things I want to move forward on. So there's 2 ways of a coach supporting a client to move forward. Number 1 is an action step that they come up with, not me. The second one, if they're not ready to take an action or they're not really clear about what actions that would be, then I can ask them, so what's the further reflection? What are some of the considerations that you want to reflect on, consider before you take actions, or know what actions that you want to take? So in coaching, we call that an inquiry. And if I can have the client think about that inquiry, come up with that inquiry in the time that we're together, and let's say for that hour coaching session, then they leave with, in many cases, an action step. I know exactly what I want to do, or at least the first 2 things I want to do. I want to do this and I want to do that. Great, super, fantastic. You're committing to do that between now and next time that we get together, 2 weeks from now? Yep, good, all right. And they may also say, and there's a part of this that's I'm not quite sure about. I want to do a little more research. I want to do some journaling. I want to do some contemplating, maybe have a conversation with someone else in the company around this initiative that I'm thinking about. Okay. So it's kind of an action step, but it's not really action. It's more thinking, reflecting, getting and bringing more clarity in. And so in a coaching session, their brain again has opened up to possibility. And so we also say in coaching that the coaching is not just the hour that I'm spending with the client face to face or voice to voice, but the inertia that takes place in this incubator when we're together, that momentum continues to support the client in terms of their thinking, in terms of their actions, in terms of their activities. And that's the way we support the client to move forward. Again, reminding you, it's all client generated. It's not me coming up with, okay, so I got 5 great ideas for you to do between now and 2 weeks from now. Now I've just left being a coach and took over as a trainer, as a mentor, as a subject matter expert. Yeah.
Thank you, Peter. There's another question again from Janki in the chat box, and I feel so tempted to reframe it, but I'll ask it exactly how it is. Is that how is all of this connected to spirit? And yeah, so I'll pause and then I'll come back later.
For me, it has to be connected to spirit because I'm a spiritual being. So it's an easy transition or connection for me. I really do believe in the coaching model that we teach you. The fulfillment coaching model is 100% based on I'm a spiritual being having a human experience. And so everything that I do for me, even in okay, let me tie it back to the mindset piece. The mindset piece says for me that I have always been, am now, always will be guided by spirit. The gut feels, the inclinations, the intuitive hits, the inclination of, when I get at a fork in a road, take the right one now or take the left one now, is all spirit driven for me. All spirit driven. The model itself has been used just as effectively with agnostics and atheists that don't believe in a God or don't believe in a deity or divine presence or karma or any of that. It's just I need to live a charitable life and then I die, right? So the language that we use as an individual coach honors the individual that I'm coaching. If they speak about a divine presence, a spirit, a God, they call it God, Jesus or Buddha or Krishna or Muhammad, then I use that language to in the conversations with that client, because I'm not here to convert them to anything, right? What I am here to do, though, as a coach, is to connect them to that source, back to source. Does that sound familiar to anybody? Back to source. That's what we're doing. From that place, again, regardless of what they name it or how they honor it, they are more resourceful in the practical world. They're more resourceful in coming up with their own best answers. They're more resourceful in terms of working through where they don't think they have an answer. I don't know. Just tell me, Peter. Just tell me. You've been in this position before as an executive. You've been in this position before transitioning from this level of being an executive to the higher level. Yes, I have. Thank you very much for recognizing that in me. And so what? Basically, I don't say that to the client because I want to respect them. But I, honest to God, do not know what's going to be best for you in this transition. So what does source say here? If you access that sense of spirit, which I've already established with a client, by the way, in my ongoing coaching, I do that right up front in the foundation session. It's almost the second question I ask them. So for me, this is highly spiritual, and I think it's why it's so highly effective, by the way, because whether a person talks to it as spirit or just says, I know you have the answer within you. I'm just here to support you to unravel it, reveal it, have it come up to the surface from your unconscious or subconscious to your conscious mind of awareness so that you can make a better decision. For me, that's all spiritual. Spirit has my back. It never leaves me. It's available to me 365, 24/7. Even in leap years, it's still around. It doesn't take a day off.
To that, I can only say ditto. But I'm going to just ask Janki, who's here on the call, and does that clarify your understanding? If there's something more that you want to ask, then rather than me preempting the question, I will get you to unmute and ask yourself.
It partly answers my question. Does it require you to have a belief or faith in the spirit to be able to connect to the spirit? I mean, what if I'm not talking about theist or atheist here.
Yeah.
It's just the fact that there is something that is beyond me. There is something that is a higher power, which is guiding me. How central is that belief to be able to change your mindset? And what if you come from, because that's what most people really believe in, that it's important for you to take charge of yourself and important for you to do things yourself. You need to own it up and you need to do it. Nobody is going to guide you or help you, or no miracle is going to happen for you too. So there is that kind of mindset in a lot of us. So yeah, so that's where I to leave it up to the higher power versus take the guidance. How do you actually get to this distinction? It's like such a thin line between the two.
Well, it's a powerful question, and it's a powerful insightfulness. So number one, I believe that it's much easier for a coach, for a human being that is thinking about becoming a coach or adopting this mindset, even if you're not a professional coach for that matter, to have that concept of there's a guiding force, whatever that might be. It's easier. Here's the other observation I've made, though, in the last, I don't know, probably the last 37 years myself, is that human beings have forgotten. It's still there. It's still relevant. It's incredibly highly relevant. But people have forgotten that they have access to that source, have access to that divine guidance, because, and I'll put this in I statements, I was conditioned by my parents. I was conditioned by my teachers, all with good intentions. They wanted the best for me. They didn't want to, I say, nobody, my parents didn't wake up one morning and go, let's see, what can we do to Peter today? He needs therapy at 35. I mean, they weren't that kind of person. So by the time that I was 37 years old, I had completely been disconnected to my sense of spirit, completely. If you would have asked me at 37 or have this conversation, if there's a third person here, you and me and my 37-year-old, what are you two talking about? Like, because anything that was spiritual at 37 in my brain had to do with religion, had to do with dogma, had to do with a set of rules that here's how we as blank, we as Catholics, we as Buddhists, we as Hindi are meant to be acting. Now, what I do in our training, what Amrita and I both do in our training, is to remind people, and they rediscover that inner guidance. That's, and people have come out of our training almost consistently out of the last 25 years and said, I have fallen back in love with my original self. And for me, that's spiritual. That's the inner guidance that I've ignored. Now I continue to have inklings about what's the right thing to do at any given point in time. I think it's so powerful in there that it can't be totally covered up or ignored. But in the world of Western culture, I'm going to call this right now, or corporate culture, which has, I've been involved with lots and lots of executives in India now for the last 13 years, since 2009. And the thinking of the Western culture and, or if you will, the corporate culture completely ignores anything that's spiritual. Just plain ignores it. No, that's not important. What is important is getting this done. What is important is, I want you to do it this way. This is what we do here at blank corporation. Here's what we do here at this learning facility. So it's, for me, it's more about supporting the client to remember, reconnect to that which is inside. Now, if they're still agnostic or atheistic in nature, then again, I'm not there to say, okay, no, I want you to use the word Buddha, or I want you to use the word Jesus or Christ or God or divine creator, which are all of my words. I can use those freely and know the meaningfulness of that for me. But whatever, and I ask them, so what word do you use when you are your most resourceful self, or you need to access that sense of resourceful self? And they tell me, I use Mother, Father, Earth. Okay, great. That's the words I'm going to use with them as long as I work with them for the next year or 2 years or whatever it might be. So circling back to your exact question, do you need to have that understanding? It makes a big difference to support that. But I'm going to teach you and train you how to, that you can facilitate a client that comes from that place of either not knowing or being so distant from it that they don't believe it anymore, or even a concept is like, no, you don't understand. I work in a real world, Peter. I work in a corporation that gets stuff done. I'm going to teach you a methodology that can support person to come back to this and get reconnected. We call it a discovery process, but it really is a rediscovery process. Does that make sense to you? I see you smiling knowingly.
Yeah, it definitely does make sense to me. But there's one, if I may add a little bit to this, that there is a notion of having to surrender, which is where the difficulty mostly is. So there's one is to connect to it, one is to surrender to it. I think there is a, so I think that's, and I think what you're telling me, what I gather is that we are saying connect with it. We're not saying that, isn't that, did I get it right?
Yeah, well, yeah, no, I think you're identifying a couple of steps here. One is to know that it's there to connect to. So it's maybe the first step. Okay. And the second one is, in your words, surrender to it or access that. And the surrendering part for me is tricky because we're not telling people, okay, so you don't need to do anything. You can sit there and, it'll all be done for you or with you. But to surrender to the guidance, yes, and then move your feet. And then take action based on that guidance that came through. And then the last piece of that is have faith that that is the right thing for you to do, even in the face that that's not what your parents want. That's not what your boss wanted. That's not what your spouse or your partner in life. Yeah, it's like culture is very strong. No. This is what women are supposed to be like in India or in America or in Europe or in Africa or wherever. Or this is what a young man is supposed to do at 17. So culture has already predefined my lifeline. And it comes back from my great-great-grandfathers to my grandparents to my parents. This is the way that Reddings show up in the world. Okay, that was very strong for me. And coming from an Irish, Luxembourgian, German kind of a DNA, again, through my heritage and living in America, I got all kinds of pressures in terms of how I was supposed to be. And I was a good little boy. I did all of those things. And at 35, 37, it's like, I've done everything. I've even got a master's degree, for crying out loud. And I hated school, but I feel empty inside. I feel empty inside because I was ignoring the very topic that you're bringing up right now. So I think it's quite insightful, quite insightful. Thank you for that.
Thank you. And it is possible in a coaching environment to establish that kind of a connect, and it can be learned how to establish that.
Guaranteed.
Thank you so much. Yeah. Thank you very much, Peter, for your kind
You're most welcome.
I'm just going to add to that, Peter. This is my most favorite topic, as you also know. It's one to respond to Janki, is that it's possible to do that in the very first coaching session. And we teach you how to do that in the very first coaching session. That's number one, guaranteed. The second piece around supporting them to connect or access that which is already within themselves is what we teach you how to facilitate. And that's what you do in the first session. The piece around surrender is you can, surrender seems like a really big word, but you just can loosely translate it as just trusting that process of first connecting and then from acting basis that guidance that you receive from that connection. So, and it doesn't in any way take away from the self-effort that you need to put into it. You can't just, like Peter said, sit there and say, okay, I've trust it, I've accessed it. Now whatever.
Now you take care of it.
Now you take care. The idea is that you're still taking that full responsibility and you're still moving forward with your 2 feet, but at the direction, at the pace that you choose to. So your question of choice will always exist, despite the accessing, despite the trust, despite the surrendering, and in spite of all of that, and with all of that. So that's that beautiful interplay that we have. I have hugely, I think, a super privilege and honor to witness and see for my client as they go through that process. It's a beautiful dance.
It is. It is. The other part of what we're talking about right now, for those of you that are listening in, is this is a courageous journey. This is a courageous human journey. And not everybody's ready for that. And so the question often comes up, is everybody coachable? Can they do what we've just been talking about now with the 3 of us? And the answer to that, my experience is no, not everybody is ready to do that level of deep work and deep, courageous work to stand up and say, I am being guided by that which is within me and which I know is right for me. And that is alignment with why I'm here on this planet right now. That takes guts. And again, there are points and times in my life that I said, whew, I don't think so. That's rocking the boat. That is, I'm not ready to withstand a backlash from blank. It's like, whoa, I want to keep the peace around here. So I have huge admiration for those of us that come and sign up for, okay, yeah, I want to live more in alignment with who I am meant to be, who I was created to be, even in the face of objection from people that I love, that have been guiding me, telling me, advising me all along. Here's how, Peter, you're supposed to show up. Now, if you stay within that narrow lane and you don't go outside the lines, then you'll be loved, you'll be accepted, you'll be promotable, you'll be received, etc., etc. But if that lane is such that it is gutting the reason that I'm here, doesn't allow me to do my life's work, then it's too narrow of a lane. It's not the lane I'm supposed to be in. I'll even put a sharper point on it. If I was following everybody else's guidance still, like I was at 32 right now, at 72, I wouldn't be doing this work. I wouldn't be in front of you. You wouldn't be seeing my face bopping up and down here. You just wouldn't. I'd be off running a multi-million-dollar corporation and being miserable.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Such an enriching conversation. Peter, coming back to the mindset piece and also the sense of embodiment, and I'm going to ask a question that that came up in the questions that were sent in, and then invite Aparna. If it answers a question, great. If not, then Aparna, I'm going to invite you to ask your question since you're here live as well. And the question really is that, do I need to be, embody this mindset 100% to start coaching? Or is it something that I can keep getting better at with practice? So do I need to be 100% in this coaching mindset from the day that I start coaching? Your views on it?
Well, the simple answer to the first question is no, and the simple answer to the second question is yes. So you don't have to be perfect initially to get started. Otherwise, we'd have no coaches in the world. I wouldn't be here talking to you because I certainly wasn't there. Do you get better at it with practice? Absolutely, absolutely, and quickly too, I might add. I see change in our people. Like I said, I just finished up a 5-day training here in the US. We call it part 1, right? I saw more people change in 5 days because it is inherent in them. In other words, they're tapping back into their inherent nature. If it was something that was not inherent, not innate, then there's no way that they would have made the shifts that they made in 5 days. It wouldn't be possible. So again, we're kind of descaling, taking the rust off of the learned ways of being, getting down to the core again of who that individual is, and having them embrace that. And that can happen very, very quickly. And I've seen it thousands of times over and over again. Because they forgot, they were not conscious of who they really are. And by, again, chipping off some of the barnacles, the things that have been acquired from the external world. So yes, yeah, again, no, you don't have to be perfect. Hallelujah. That worked for me. And yes, the more you practice it, the better you're going to get at it. Yeah.
Follow up to that, Peter, is that what is the role that a coach plays in supporting the coachee to get into this most yummy mindset?
Oh, that's really easy. We have them define that space that we've been talking about now for the last half an hour or so. They actually define that in their own words. Exactly their own words. I don't dictate that to them. They figure it out. We have some proprietary processes that we take them through that we've been honing and practicing with and proving over and over again for 25 years. So we take them through that. And then to remind them to get back into that space, we just use their words. And it's incredibly simplistic. And as simplistic as it sounds, when you do it for yourself, it is incredibly powerful to instantly have them come out of their, I'm going to call it other thinking or other patterns, and come back into themselves almost immediately. The analogy that I like to use is a tuning fork. So, everyone has seen a tuning fork that has like two prongs, and you bang it on a hard surface and it goes boing, and it has that tonality, whatever it might be, that it's been designed for. And so it's almost like that effect when I use that client's words that they've articulated, and they may be over here rattling about, yeah, but this is going on in my life and people want me to do this and that. And then I just use their words and they come right back to themselves and in total alignment. Again, raising the level of awareness. Now they may choose to ignore that in that particular moment, or they may choose to align with that. That's their prerogative, not mine. But my job is to support them, and it's a huge privilege of reminding them of who they really are. That's how I say it. Okay, so let me remind you who you really are, Amrita, or Ram, or the person I'm working with. And it's almost like they take a deep breath. Thank you, Peter, I needed that. And then it's obvious as to what they're going to do or not do.
Okay, thank you. I'm just going to ask Aparna if that answers your question, but if you have anything else that you want to add or ask, or absolutely something different in response to what Peter shared, Aparna, the stage is all yours.
No, it's answered my question and so beautifully reminded me that how I can support them is by helping them connect to their core self. And it's that one nugget that I'm going to take away from today's conversation. Beautiful. Thank you so much, Peter. And the other thought that comes to my mind is that by me role modeling how I connect to my highest self, I also sort of signal to them how they can connect to their highest self. So that's the other thought that came to my mind when Peter was sharing.
Yeah, thank you, Aparna. Yeah, the modeling part is huge. If I'm comfortable in my own skin, if I'm comfortable in talking about spirituality or talking about source, and modeling that, even when I'm scared. It's not a tutorial. I don't tell my stories to my clients, but I can model that by who I'm being. And they get it through osmosis or energetically or ethereally. I'm not quite sure how they get it, but there is, and I think every human being has had the experience of being with somebody. They walk into their room or their home, their office, their shop, and there's just, and the person hasn't said anything. They may have smiled at you, or they may be talking to somebody else in the room, even without knowing that you've entered the room. But there's a sense of peaceful energy, peaceful space that I've just walked into. And to a great degree, that's what, to your earlier question, Aparna, the more you practice this, the more that you are comfortable in your own skin. You know who you are, why you're here, without ever saying a word. And people, I don't know how they know it, but they know it. For me, it's energetic. Yeah, it's a heart-to-heart connection that takes place without non-verbally.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
And that's, I think, that linkage between the mindset and what we speak about as coaching presence, and how just embodying that mindset translates into the presence that is what is experienced by the client or by anybody else in terms of your own presence. So I'm just going to ask Ram to ask his question. It's something was in rocking the boat in closed commerce and some was open. So it's best that you ask your question yourself, Ram.
Yeah, sure. I think I was referring to, I think, what Peter mentioned in terms of, where generally the hesitation comes from to do the work, from the coachee, as to, because when everything is going fine, then, why do you, because, I think connecting to your core self can unearth a lot of possibilities, which in itself can be scary, right? I mean, because you are leading a certain, you are going a certain direction, and then if you're asked to kind of, turn around and go in a completely new direction, there is a lot of work. Besides that, there is also the fear of, letting go what is there, even though it may not be very meaningful, but yet it is there, and you are fearful of letting it go. So I think, so one is that fear, obviously, which is quite obvious. Like we are all, very, we resist change, right? So, but other than that, what else, has been your take, what has been in your experience, some other apprehensions that a coachee can or can experience in terms of that hesitance to, do that work, other than, other than changing? Is there anything else that, tops the list?
I'm laughing with you, Ram, not at you. Yeah, the top one is it's scary stuff. It's like, you want me to do what? I don't want you to do anything, first of all, as a coach. Okay, so let's get that clear, right? But I am going to support you to move towards what you most want in your life. And sometimes they're material things. I want a better job. I want to get to the next level of responsibility so that I get more salary and more bonuses and more security. I think that's part of being human, frankly. So I'm not against somebody getting promoted. I'm not certainly gonna say, do you really need the third house up in the Himalayas for you and your family? I take that, all that judgment out of it as best I can and support them to move towards what they want. Now, the two areas that we've been talking about here today is there are external goals, right? Money, privilege, confidence, things like that I want more of in my life. I want to have more harmonious relationship with my mother-in-law. Okay, fantastic. The other part that we're talking about is internal desires. Now the question becomes, between the internal and the external, are they congruent? Is there alignment there or not, or to what degree? And the beautiful thing about the tools that we will provide you is you'll actually be able to have the client self-assess themselves. To what degree is your current life or this particular goal or aspiration or challenge, whatever they may be working on, to what degree is that in alignment with who you now know yourself to be at the core? They've never had that before. I can guarantee you, I've been doing this between me and my students, hundreds of thousands of people don't know their core self. They think they do, but it's a reflection of their external programming. So now if you do know your core self and you've articulated that core sense of core self, now you have your own individual, customized, one-of-a-kind, unique, 100% unique out of 7.5 billion people, your own GPS, your own North Star, your own guiding light, however you want to hold that, to be able to, and that doesn't change, by the way. It may be the only thing in the world that doesn't change. So that was there at birth. That is there now. That will be there when I die. Okay, mine. Yours is the same way, but it's for you. And yours is unique from mine and Amrita's and Aparna's and the rest of the group. But now I have the capacity as a coach to say and ask a question. Okay, so wow, I hear you have this goal coming up. You want to be in the CXO ranking of your organization within the next 5 years. And you want coaching to prepare yourself for developing to a place that you can do that and be considered seriously for that position, or 2 positions up from where you are now, outstanding. And I will support you to go along with that. And a priori, before you go on this journey, I just want to do a little exercise with you to see to what degree this might or might not be, as you currently defined it, aligned with your life purpose. Wow, you can do that? Yep, I can do that. Okay, super. And I'm using their words, not mine, not one I'm saying, okay, so, because I'm not a divinely guy, I can't say, okay, Ram, your life purpose is this, just please write it down. I can't do that. What I can do though is lead you through a process where you define that. And then I can ask you a question in terms of, okay, so CXO of what? Finance, HR, engineering, customer support. And so you define that. Yeah, I've been in finance. So yeah, I want to be the CFO. All right, super. Chief Financial Officer. And you want to do that within the next 5 years. And where are you at now? I'm 2 layers down from that. I'm a VP, and then I become a senior VP, and then I become the CFO. Okay, got it. So what options have you thought about in terms of getting there? I can do this, I can do that, I can do the other. And then we can say, okay, so are those things, and can you define what life would be like as a CFO? Relationships with banks, I have relationships with the stockholders, I have relationships with the other stakeholders, the supply chain. I'm responsible for this, that, and the other, right? Okay. So at that point, I can ask, that job that you just described and the lifestyle that you have as a result of that, to what degree is that aligned with who you now know yourself to be at your core strengths, your core values, your core purpose in life? I can go into that level of detail and tap into the mother lode of who you are. And then does that fulfill these things over here that your creator, if they're comfortable with that terminology, then I'll use that terminology. So who your creator created you to be, to what degree are you fulfilling that by on this journey that's going to take you, what I think you said, 3 to 5 years. Yeah. So I can both fast forward them in terms of that position or that desire or having what they're moving towards, and back looking at it from this current standpoint. And I've saved people 10 years of their life by going through this process, because they realize, oh, wow, I do not want that level of responsibility. The cost to me will be a relationship with my son that in 5 years' time is going to be going from, junior high school, like say grade 8 or 9 into university. And I will miss that, valuable time that I want to spend with him. Wow. So then how do you want to morph, change, alterate that future goal so that you can spend time with your son and other things? Obviously, I'm just streaming things here in terms of what I've heard in other coaching sessions. Powerful stuff, powerful stuff. So does that make sense, Ram? What out of all of that you just heard, what makes sense to you?
Yeah, I think probably what made sense to me is that I mean, there is no real hesitance on the coachee if in their language, if you're firstly communicating or rather helping them to articulate what their life purpose is, I think then the walls of resistance kind of break down, and the apparent fear of change kind of dissipates. I mean, it kind of goes away. And I think so you're reinforcing strength by letting them articulate their life purpose and then helping them to move forward. So I think that makes sense.
Perfect. Yes. Yeah, the other thing that happens with this too is that where I can be bullied, I'm not talking physically here, but I can be bullied through language or other people's good opinions of what I should be doing and not doing what I think I should be doing. I am almost immune to that when I get to know who I really am. And I can still be respectful. Thank you for your opinion. But I'm real sure that this is my path. And that frees up all kinds of energy, all kinds of positive focus, all kinds of forward movement by the client. Thank you, Mom. Thank you, mother-in-law. Thank you, wife. Thank you, brother and sisters. Thank you, culture. Thank you, CNN, for what I should be voting and not voting or what. Here's my path. And I am really confident that this is what I need to do.
I think
so there's almost a counter to the fear. It transmutes into a propulsion and a not a righteousness. This is not, you know, I'm smarter than you, I'm better than you, none of that. In fact, it's very humbling. But there is an inertia that gets created when I am in alignment with Peter. Yeah. Go ahead, Sam.
I think I just wanted to kind of share, I think what I heard elsewhere is, I think when you're a person on a mission, okay, so you start to see things, you know, and see that you're on the way and not necessarily it's in your way, right? So I think whatever you just said, I think kind of paraphrases that. Thanks.
Fabulous. Thank you so much, Ram.
Thank you. Peter, we have around like now 10 minutes left, so I just want to you know, open for any questions that there may be that come up as you've heard Peter share. If there's anything that's come up that's left unanswered that you'd like, then you can unmute one at a time and then you can ask the question. And then I'll have Peter just, you know, close the session with his closing comments on the mindset. So if there are any questions, please feel free to unmute and ask.
I just want to take off from where Ram left and ask a question that if the client wants to believes, like the CFO example that you gave.
Sure.
So if the client believes that that picture works for him and that's what his life purpose is, then you just let it be. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, well, actually, I don't have a say in it. As a coach, I don't have a say in, they can choose to go after something that's not aligned. They can go after something that's sort of aligned. They can go after something that is aligned. So even that, going back to that pure coaching mindset, is I am going to support you based on your path, your journey, your decisions.
Irrespective of what sensing you get.
Yeah, I can ask some questions, but not leading questions like, don't you think that's going to be kind of ruinous to your relationship at home? I mean, that's so not a coaching question because it's directive, it's a yes or no, and it's judgmental. So I have to unstick, you know, take my fingers off of that and say, okay, so what would be the first step to move in that direction? Or I might ask, is there a way that you could bring more of yourself into this journey? Because sometimes they haven't really completely thought out the end result. All that they know is my batchmates from, you know, B school are now all CXOs and I'm not. So again, they're still being driven by the external, you know, thing of I'm the odd man out, or I'm the odd woman out. And they are being driven. I want to be like them, and I want to be seen and have the prestige of being a CXO. I get that. But my job as a coach is to have them think about it, I always say that coaching, I'm in the awareness rising business. That's the business I'm in as a professional coach, helping the client to raise their level of awareness so that they can make better decisions. That's why coaching is so developmental in its nature, and one of the best developmental tools there is, because it's so customized. Without my sticky fingers getting involved with, oh no, I don't think that's the right decision, pal. Can I steer you in a different direction? Not my job. Yeah. Yeah, you're welcome. and a great insight too.
So there are no more questions, Peter. If you can just, whatever are your closing comments on this coaching mindset, and then I'll close the session.
Okay. Well, thank you for the privilege of being with you for these last hour and a bit. I love the energy of coaches, whether you're a professional coach already, or you're thinking about becoming a professional coach, or adding to your skill set as a professional coach. So thank you for that. I'm always invigorated by that. And the mindset, again, is for me where it starts. Do I have the belief that they actually have their own best answer someplace inside of them, and they just haven't taken the time or the energy or the wherewithal to access that? And then hold that space on an ongoing basis, because they're human. They forget that they have the answers within them. And so again, one of my privileges in my mindset is to support them to access what's best for them. Even if I tell them, and I have it written in my agreement, I do not give advice as a coach. So I will ask you questions, I'll make observations. You're the one that's going to figure this out for yourself. And so because they're human, and because they've gotten beaten up by life or by circumstances over the course from the last 2 weeks ago that we did our coaching session, I bring a fresh mindset of they are the source of their own best answer, even when they don't think so. So I support them with a mindset of, okay, so what do you want to do? What are your options? What are the possibilities? How will that support you? How will that be aligned? You notice all my questions just then was what or how, open-ended, so that they can reflect, and opening up their mind, their brain, their possibilities, their knowingness, even if it is at a subconscious level, and unearthing that, raising their level of awareness so that they can make the best decision for themselves. Is it the decision that I would always have for them? No. And that's okay, because also I believe that every human being is here to learn their life lessons. So if they veer off instead of going straight towards their goal, and they go, this way, and then they go that way, and then they go back this way, and sort of a torturous path that seems to me as a observer, I know that there's learning that's taking place over there. And as an ex-flaming codependent that was here to rescue everybody and tell them what to do and how to live their life, my life's gotten really simple. I got so much time now. I don't have to worry about, anybody in terms of what choices they're making, because I know that they're learning, and I know that they're living the best that they can right now. So the mindset is huge. Think about it. Here's a little exercise for you going forward, whether you become a coach or not, is what mindset am I right now listening to Peter? What mindset right now am I listening to my spouse? What mindset am I having as I'm working with the support in my household? What kind of mindset am I working with this coworker? And just kind of take notes. If you're a journaling person, whenever you journal, make notes. With my home domestic support, they weren't doing it right. And I was telling them how to do it. With a coworker, they're young and inexperienced, and I'm trying to save them the angst of doing things wrong. Okay, that's your mindset. Own that mindset. With your teenage daughter, yep, I was overbearing. I was this, that, or the other. And by being aware of that, making notes to that, start bringing some coach-like conversations into it. I'm just curious. I would love to catch up with you. I'm not going to give you any advice like I normally would as your dad or as your boss. I'm just curious about what thoughts you have around whatever you want to talk to me about. And again, notice that mindset. That'll be a great support to get your head around. How am I listening? How am I showing up? And am I getting in the way of their development? Or am I adding a safe space for them to develop? And I'll leave it go. I'll leave it there, Amrita.
What a powerful place to leave it, Peter. Thank you. Thank you so much. It's always such a pleasure to hear you and learn from you. And even though I work so closely with you, I learn every time something new. And today's takeaway for me is just the way that you articulated that core self, that people refer to as core self, could be a result of external programming. And it's my role and responsibility as a coach trained by you to take them on that internal programming piece that is so easily actually available. So thank you for bringing your work to all of us and your presence today. I enjoyed myself as much receiving it as facilitating it. Thank you everyone for being here. If you do choose to join the program with us in September, it'll be a delight to have you join the Learning Circle. And if not, I have every confidence that you will when the time is right for you. So thank you and see you soon. Namaste.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.